Welcome to We the 98ers. I'm Thomas Schooley.
No.
That's Aiden Pearson. And
Somewhere.
tonight we are without Evan, but we're gonna go over these Rays because we missed last week, so we figured we better have a show this week. So
We were about this close to not having one again. I was really debating it.
Listen, it's been a real big month for Tampa Bay sports, so I'm doing double duty with this one and with the Thunder. So it's trying to keep these straight. And last Sunday we were bumped from because the Lightning had a playoff game that Sunday. So unfortunately, playoffs come a little bit more important than we the 99ers. Not that we're not watching the Rays still, because literally we did talk about the Rays on that broadcast.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'd much rather watch, even as a true baseball fan, and I watch every Rays game or listen to every Rays game. I still understand that playoff hockey trumps May baseball. Let's not sit here and pretend it doesn't. And look, quick lightning PSA quote or whatever, they look good. I don't know what's happening in net with Vasi. He looks a little shaky compared to normal, but the power play unit has been on fire. And I mean, I was watching the last game and the one that put us ahead with the go-ahead goal where Cooch is crashing towards the net, and you find Stamkos in his deadly spot in the left circle. He just puts that home. I mean, that's textbook play that you cannot let up right there to those Bulls.
That's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say one thing about it, and then we're gonna go on to Rays baseball. But yesterday they put me on the Jumbotron and had me do the trivia. And if you look, the score was 4-2. Carolina didn't score a goal afterwards, and Tampa Bay ends up scoring 4. So
good luck charm right there.
Coincidence? I think not. It was all me. Once I hit the Jumbotron, it was over. So now let's talk about Rays baseball. How about the month of May?
I mean, gosh, I think we talked about it on this podcast. At the end of April, we were all like, is this going to be a 500 season? Is this going to be similar to 2009, where coming off a World Series berth, they ended up just sort of stringing their way along and sucking, for lack of a better term, through the year? And look, it all starts with the pitching staff. Tyler Glasnow, Rich Hill, Ryan Yarbrough, Josh Fleming, Shane McClanahan. Name me a better starting 5 in baseball right now. I don't really think you can, a full 1 through 5. You cannot name a better starting staff. And the bullpen has been carrying their own weight, too. And, you know, the offenses looked really good, and I'm sure we're going to get more into it. Zunino and Meadows sort of carrying the power. You've got guys like Taylor Walls and Joey Wendell who are still getting base hits. Everything seems to be clicking on every level right now. That, plus with the depth that Tampa has in the minors in case people get hurt, this is a team right now that I don't think any team wants to face now, or when we get to playoff time. I don't think any team wants to face the Rays.
You know, and we've talked about before, I mean, I think it's not that much of a coincidence that once Troy came back, this team started lighting it up. We talked about them having fun. And as soon as Troy came back, this team went back to looking like they were having fun. And ever since then, you can see almost every single game some kind of shenanigans in the dugout, on the field. They're just playing around and having fun, where it seemed like the beginning of the season they didn't really seem to be having too much fun.
And I think a bulk of that honestly comes from the fact that the World Series hangover is a real thing. We're seeing it with the Dodgers right now. We've seen it with the Rays at the beginning of the season. You know what I mean? That the fact of the matter is that they were on the World Series hangover. I was really worried with what was going to happen when they traded Willy Adames. I was very scared because you see how many of those guys love Willie. It was very similar to when they traded Jake Bauers to Cleveland a few years ago. Because Jake Bauers may not be the best hitter. He just got DFA'd. But he had that chemistry with a lot of the guys. Because a lot of these guys came through the system together and won at every single level. I mean, I don't think there's a member of this Rays team who came through the Rays system who didn't win at some level or another. The Rays system knows how to win, and we're seeing it with all the teams right now in their minor league system. But the fact of the matter is G-Man Choi's just such an electric energy that he can make anyone smile. And I think that you said it, and you said it best. When this team is having fun, they win. And that's the key. And you know what? The more fun they have, the more wins they get. That makes me happy.
I mean, and I'm not going to lie, I can't stand Cash. I don't think he's a great manager. And every season I'm like, I want them to do crappy just so they'll fire Cash. But I got to give that man credit. I mean, he keeps finding ways to win no matter with who this ownership gives them.
And look, the stigma around him that he doesn't let his pitchers go, he's proven differently this season. Yarborough, first complete game since Matt Andriese. He's letting Glasnow go deep into games. Look, every negative stigma around him. Don't get me wrong. I think some of the decisions he makes is bonehead. But let's look at it the way it's supposed to be called. He is managing his ass off right now. And he is the right young manager for this team.
Well, he doesn't want another Blake Snell incident again with pulling pitchers too early.
But mind you, he doesn't have to let them go in the month of May.
No.
I think people, one thing that people understand is a World Series game is different from a game in the month of May. That I don't think fans would go as crazy if they pulled him after 3 or 4 games, or like after 6-7 innings in a game like that.
Then, huh?
Oh, I do. I do. I do. Trust me, I do. I read it. I'm a part of it. I don't read it out, but I read it. I read it. But I think there isn't as much uproar about it. There still is uproar, but not as heavy. But I think he's showing that, okay, I learned from my mistake. And if a pitcher's dominating like Yarborough did in that complete game, I'm going to leave him out there. And look, who saw what Rich Hill did in the month of May? Who saw that coming? He's a 41-year-old, the oldest pitcher to win Pitcher of the Month, the oldest pitcher to ever throw a pitch for the Tampa Bay Rays. And he looks great. I mean, he is a great number 3 compliment after Glasnow and Yarborough. And then you put in the 2 young guns and Fleming and McClanahan, the 2 lefties. Like I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, you're talking about probably the best rotation in all of baseball right now.
I got to go to a game with Hill on the mound, and I really like what he brings to the team. I know there was a lot of talk when he came to the team whether or not he was going to end up being any good, but he's showing his stuff. And for some reason, the Rays have a habit of getting these pitchers and resurrecting their career.
I mean, they've done it so many times. I mean, you can literally take a list and just start going down the list. I mean, Matt Andriese is a name. You can go Jake Faria. Those are just 2 guys off the top of my head. But there are so many names you can go down that list that it's happened to, that at what point do you just say, look, this is what the Rays do? And I think Rich Hill being a little bit of a taller guy, a lot of these pitchers who they bring in are a little bit bigger because they have Kyle Snyder there, their pitching coach, who is a big guy. You wonder why Glasnow has done so well under him, and all these pitchers who are taller and lankier, it's because Kyle Snyder understands how to teach those tall guys how to pitch because he is a tall guy.
I remember a tweet, I want to say it was last week, someone said, do you regret that Snell trade?
No, not one bit. Not a single freaking second of it.
My comment to it was not at all. And once he starts sucking, we'll re-sign him and make him better again.
But here's my thing, and that's a fair comment. But I think the biggest thing right now is the fact of the matter is that you cannot allow them to continue doing that stuff. And I think what the Rays have shown is that they know exactly what they're doing when they make these trades. We said the same thing about the David Price deal. We said the same thing about the Evan Longoria deal. How many different deals have we said this about that it's just to a point of, okay, we got to know what they're doing. And here's the point. Blake Snell has looked terrible in San Diego. He finally had a good game recently, but before that, he looked terrible. So here's my thing. If the Rays can do this, Mejia has looked great, and I'm very happy with the trade. And I think you could even go down in the minor leagues. Blake Hunt has been great in all these different players.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just looking. Let's go on to about the offense. I'm just looking at some of the scores from just the month of May going into this month. I mean, we're scoring. If you go back to our last podcast, which would have been the 30th, we score 6, then we score 3, then we score 3, 9, 4, 3, 7 today. The scoring, the bats are coming. You know, a couple years ago we had the motto of the Rays was the hit show. Back when we had, I want to say it was Upton and Pena. What do you think about the bats?
I mean, the bats have just come alive. That's the whole thing here, and it's led there by Zunino and Meadows, who we talked about, who I mentioned at the top. Meadows and Zunino are carrying this team, and it's really nice to see. Even when Zunino's out, we still got the guy in Mejia who has been very solid behind the plate. And I think what we're seeing now is that, like we talked about them having fun, the bats are being consistent, and that's something we haven't seen in God knows how long. When is the last time you can mention the bats being consistent? Because that's just not how things end up. That's just what they do. Right now, when they have that sort of consistency, they're a hard team to beat, and that's the whole reason behind them not being there. I mean, you can even look at some of the stats. Taylor Walls, since he's come up, has been so much more dominant than Willy Adames was. You know what I mean? That's just not how they've been. And I mean, we can even look at more of these stats here. Like, oh my Lord, that for some reason you mentioned Carlos Pena, and he was the first guy when I hit stats to come up for some reason, even though it says.
Well, here I'm looking at batting stats. This is what I like. I like that it is spread around. So your best average right now on the team is Wendell. Home runs, Meadows. RBIs, Meadows. Stolen bases, Rosarina. Runs, Rosarina. On base percentage, Diaz. Slugging, Meadows. Hits, Rosarina. Triples, Margot. Base on balls, Diaz. And then strikeouts, you have Lau. But I like that it's getting spread around the whole team.
Look, and here's my thing. Randy Arozarena, he is I don't know what to think about him right now, honestly. I think since they moved him in the lineup and took some of the pressure off of him, it's been great for him, and that's when his stats have improved. And look, what we're expecting right now, I'm not sure from him, but here's the thing. I don't care how well he does during the regular season. If when it comes playoff time he shows up, I'll take it. He'll be great when he comes up in the playoff. That's all we need. Right now we need our pitching staff and our hitting to carry us to a playoff spot. And once we get there, there is no team that can beat us in the playoffs, and I'm confident of that.
And then going into the pitching, you have Glasnow with the 2.69 ERA, Hill with the 3.05, and Yarbrough with the 3.95. And then tied for wins, you have Fleming, Hill, and Kittredge are tied with five wins.
But in Kittredge, and let's talk about Kittredge, because he's that unspoken, unsung hero of that bullpen. He's got 20 games. He's 5-1 with a 1.29 ERA, a .89 WHIP. Opponents are only hitting 175 against him. But here's the thing: 24 strikeouts to 8 walks. I mean, This guy in 28 innings has been our best reliever all season, and I never thought I would say that. I mean, JP Firestone has looked good since coming over. Fairbanks is still doing his thing. Castillo has looked a little shaky. But overall, this pitching staff is the best 1 through 12, whatever you want to call it. It's the best pitching staff in baseball. And I'll leave it at this for talking about the pitching staff. This pitching staff is so deep and how many guys they have in the minors too, that when it comes playoff time, when it comes down the dog days of August and September, you're not going to want to face the Rays. No team is going to want to face the Tampa Bay Rays because of how good their bats can be and how dominant this pitching staff can be and just how many bats and pitchers they have to use.
Well, yeah, as you were saying, pitching and then the minors. But it doesn't even stop there. We have the hitters down in the minors too. So
right.
This team is so deep that it really is the next man up mentality. I mean, anybody can get – I'd hate to see anybody get injured, but I really – at this point right now, if someone was to get injured, there's a lot of confidence there that the next person will step up and be just as good.
And look, I would say this with a whole lot of confidence just based on the injuries in Major League Baseball. Probably on about 15 other teams, Vidal Brujan would be up on their big league clubs right now. Wander Franco would be up in 20 of them. I mean, Patino's in a starting rotation. I mean, McKay's in a starting rotation. There are so many guys who should be on Major League clubs, but just because they're in the Rays organization and how good the Rays depth is, they're not. And look, we're primed for success for the next 10 to 15 years, Schoolie. And I don't think any other team can say that with the kind of players they have in the minor leagues.
And we have 2 current catchers that can be playing on starting lineups on other teams.
1,000%.
I mean, we talk about it. I think we talked about it last one that wouldn't be surprised if one of them gets traded because you can
look.
You can rely
I know Rays fans would hate this just because of how good Zunino's doing. But do you think there's serious consideration from the Rays to capitalize on his value while he's hot? Because he's probably going to ask for more money in the offseason. So why not trade him now, maximize on his value? Because Mejia can hit. And he's been great defensively. And you've got 2 veterans in the minor leagues, one of them being Kevin Smith, who you can call up right now to play your backup.
Yeah, I would imagine they're gonna be listening.
I mean, Rays fans, let's sit here and say this. I would not be shocked if Zunino and Kiermaier both are not on this team. Also, don't be surprised if they trade another bullpen arm. If a guy like Kittredge, who hasn't really been good ever, who's having a great season, I don't see them trading Castillo or Fairbanks, but maybe a guy like Jeffrey Springs, who's been pretty decent. Maybe a guy like Ryan Thompson. Don't be surprised if there are more moves made because that's just how the Rays operate. And because of how many guys they have, there's so much opportunity for them. And look, I don't care who they trade, what they trade. This team is going to be a playoff team, and it's going to be hard to beat them in the playoffs because when they're rolling in the playoffs, very similar to the Tampa Bay Lightning. When they're rolling in the playoffs, they're hard to beat.
Listen, they're hard to beat right now. I mean, they're
always hard to beat, but especially in the playoffs.
Yeah,
we saw that against the Yankees. We saw that against the Astros. We saw that against the Blue Jays last year. I mean, they were hard to beat in 2008 when they made it to the World Series. I mean, the Phillies and the Dodgers both ended up winning the World Series, but they're still so hard to beat. And like I said, I don't think any team wants to face them, even right now or even when he gets a playoff time.
I love this never give up attitude that they have. Really, they can be 3, 4, 5 runs down, and they are still over there believing in themselves and having fun, and will come back and hit a couple jacks out of the park and steal some bases and tie it up and then go ahead and win the whole damn game. I like this that they don't get behind and they sulk, and they really have the mentality that they can come back from anything and win a game.
Because they can. Them, unlike other teams, can come back. They have the right bats to do it, and their bats are very good, and it shows. And look, Rays fans, if you're out there listening, vote Rays, vote Meadows and Zunino into the All-Star game because both of them deserve it. I mean, vote Joey. Joey Wendell is the unsung hero of this team who gets no recognition whatsoever. But if you look at the stats, he deserves to be in the All-Star game.
Yeah, but who he's against, you're never going to do that.
Exactly. Just because the All-Star game is a joke of popularity.
Yeah, that was the next segment I was going to lead you into, the All-Star game. What Ray do you think makes it?
I think Zunino, Meadows, Glasnow, and Hill. I think we have 4.
You think all 4 will get on?
Because one thing they won't make it as starters. Glasnow or Hill might make it as the AL starting pitcher, because that is selected by the manager, and
right.
Cash might want to give it to one of them, which is completely understandable. My guess is whoever it is will probably oppose Kevin Gausman on the other side for the NL, just because of how good he's been. But I think that because of how the voting for the bench spots work, with it being up to coaches, front office, and players, I think you hear it in so many interviews that a lot of players, GMs, and coaches have respect for the Rays and have respect for the Rays players and how good they do, that I think that they will get more respect than they do to fans, just because of the sheer demographic. And I think we could see as little as 2 Rays. I don't see how Meadows doesn't make an All-Star game, and I don't see how Glasnow doesn't make it. And I think we could see as many as 5. The other one who I'd throw in there is Joey Wendell. I think that I don't think he's going to make it. I think we see as little as 2, as many as 5.
I can see Glasnow, and I can see Zunino. I don't know if I see any more. Maybe Hill.
Here are the names who I think could make it to an All-Star game for the Rays, just because of what they're doing this season. Glasnow and Hill as starters. You've got Wendell, Zunino, and Meadows as hitters. And then I think you definitely have to give some consideration in the bullpen to how good Kittredge and Fairbanks have been this season. Like, I know that's not all of them are going to make the team. I just don't see how an AL pitcher of the month doesn't make it to the All-Star game. I don't see how Hill does not make it to the All-Star game right now.
I think he definitely deserves it. Will he get on there? No idea.
It'll be interesting to see what happens, and that's what it comes down to.
Now, games coming up. What do we have coming up now?
We got 2 against Washington, and then 3 against Baltimore in our house, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong on that. Hold on, let me look.
2 Washington, and then 3 Baltimore.
And then we go to Chicago and to Seattle. Yeah. Look, the next time we talk, we'll be talking about 5 games, all against teams from the Maryland area. I'm going to shock some people with what I say here, but I see a 5-0 homestand.
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, the Nationals and the Orioles.
Let's talk about the pitching matchups against the Nationals. Lester and Corbin versus Glasnow and McClanahan. I'm sorry, but John Lester is not what he was how many years ago when he was dominant in Boston?
He's 0-2 right now with a 4.37 ERA.
And Corbin was very good last year, but this year he's sucking. I mean, there's no other way to put it.
Corbin is 3-5 with a 6.28 ERA.
Exactly.
And when Rays get those people with those high ERAs, they tend to
take advantage.
They take it out of them.
And look, here, I think my main point on this, and this is what I'm going to say, I think the pitching is obviously sided with the Rays, and I don't think Washington's bats can keep up with Glasnow or McClanahan. I think you're going to get 2 different looks on 2 different days, because you got to think of the way Glasnow pitches from the right side. He's so dominant, and then you get a completely different velocity and look from McClanahan coming from the other side on the next day. It's going to be so difficult for that Nationals team to hit, especially I think the one thing that could be their saving grace is the fact that we're playing with the DH.
And then the 3 games against Baltimore. None of the pitching been determined on that one yet.
To be determined. Welcome to Tampa Bay Sports, where pitching is always to be determined.
But it's, let's see, we just faced Baltimore last month. What we do? We
swept them in their house.
Swept them in 3-game series. Now they'll have the 3 games here. You have the 7-10 game, then a 4-10 game, then a 1-10 game against them. And then we're going against the White Sox, Seattle, then Boston. So this whole month of June can be another winning month and can pull away teams.
And I think it will be. I honestly think it will be there, Schoolie. I think it's too hard with the teams they're facing not to be a winning month. And look, this is something I said to you pregame. If you win every series, you're going to be in the playoffs. And I think this month of June, they can do just that. They can win every series, or at least if it's a 4-game series, they can split. Look, I think for me, the telltale series is going to be the one against the White Sox. I think if they can win against Chicago, they can win against anyone.
So I want to see against the Boston series.
Because we did get swept in Boston. But
right.
When we did, it was a completely different Rays team than there is now.
You're right. And Boston was on top of the standings then. They're not anymore. They're looking at us. Boston
today is trying to sweep New York. And I never say this, but go Boston. Hopefully they do sweep New York. But, just because I hate the Yankees more than I do the Red Sox. But the fact of the matter is that we'll see. And look, if there's any team that can do it, it's the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, that's going to be the game that interests me, the series that it's really going to see if they revenge that sweep.
Mm-hmm.
We saw the Yankees take 2 out of 4 in this last series with them, and if you looked at their Twitter, you would think they just won the World Series.
I love how Yankees fans, and I see this all over Twitter and Facebook, Yankees fans are like, oh, we're in the Rays fans' heads rent-free. No, we're in your heads rent-free.
Right.
We live there. Oh,
right.
There's a reason why in the past 2-3 years they call New Yankee Stadium Tropicana Field North.
Right.
I mean,
we have a winning record against you in your stadium and our stadium. Shut up and sit down.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I have a buddy who's a Yankees fan, and when they lose, you don't hear a word from them.
And when they win, he starts chirping.
Yeah.
Starts the chirp wagon.
Because me and another one of my coworkers were in a group text with him, and we're both Rays fans, and he's a Yankees fan, and we don't even sit there and brag when the Rays beat them, but sure enough, as soon as the Yankees start winning, then he doesn't shut up. But then the next day when they get clobbered, all of a sudden it's not a peep from them.
Right. It's funny how that works.
Hey, what's up, Mason? Little shout out. So anything else before we go out of here?
Moves are going to be made at some point before the trade deadline. I've been saying it every week that I will be shocked if Kiermaier's
right.
I know, right? I'm just going to keep going with it until I'm right, because I'd be shocked if Kiermaier is in a Rays uniform at the end of the week. But so far he has been. But it'll be interesting to see if you guys get a chance, watch some of the Rays minor league affiliates, especially Durham. Prayers to Tyler Zombro and his family with the injury that he sustained on the field. Freak accident. I will request, and I requested this on my episode of In the Tank, please do not share that video around, as it is quite graphic. If you guys want a visual, think of the Alex Cobb injury, but worse. I think that's the best way I can put that. And you know what? But still watch Durham, because they're getting some of the rehabbers, like Chaz Rowe is rehabbing there right now. But Durham is just a fun team to watch if you get the chance to. I am today rocking the Durham Bulls hat, so go Bulls. And just Rays fans, this is fun. We're having fun right now, so just enjoy it and allow yourselves to be in the moment and don't go crazy over one loss. Because when you do that, you make Rays fans look like idiots.
And Al Bushman's on daddy duty tonight, but hopefully he'll be back next Sunday because I'm waiting. I have some things set aside. I'm waiting for both of you guys when he comes back, kind of like that stadium talk again over in Ybor.
That'll be a fun one to get into.
That people are talking about, and I know he would have a lot to say. So I'm gonna wait for another day. As far as we know, we will be back next Sunday unless a Lightning series gets pushed into that. And
maybe if we're not able to get that episode in, maybe we'll talk to the head honchos and see if we can get one in on a different day. We'll talk with the big bosses upstairs.
Yeah. And then if you guys are also Lightning fans, I will be back with Shooter and Stash on Tuesday.
Tomorrow, right?
Tuesday. Nope, they're off tomorrow.
Really? 2 days in between?
2 days in between this game.
I've been so used to them doing every other game that I was like getting ready to figure out I was going to watch the game tomorrow.
Some series have had back-to-back games, so I'm happy we didn't get that. I think this is the catch-up. I think this is the catch-up with some of the other series that are only at game 1 and 2. So Tuesday night.
Bolts win tomorrow. They clinch, correct?
Tuesday. Bolts win Tuesday.
Yeah,
Tuesday. They go on to the third round.
Which is
winner of the Boston Islanders.
Right, because that's a different division, right?
Yeah.
Well, isn't that when we get the reshuffle based on records?
Yep, and automatically, because of the teams that are left in it, Tampa gets the winner of the Boston Islanders, where the winner of the Vegas, Colorado would get the Canadian winner.
Look, I don't know about you, and I know this is definitely for We the Thunder, but I don't get to hop on there all that much. I think I'd much rather face the Islanders than Boston, just because I hate. But also there would be something very sweet about beating Boston in the playoffs because of how much I hate Boston.
Again, yeah, it'd be nice beating them again, but also beating Barry Trotz, the coach of the Islanders, when he beat us when he was with the Caps, when he won the Stanley Cup. So I wouldn't mind beating him too because they say he's the next Jesus of coaching over there. So I wouldn't mind beating them. So either one.
I wouldn't mind beating either, honestly.
So join us Tuesday for We the Thunder with me and Shooter and Stash. Join me, Aiden, and Al Bushman next Sunday. If we will make an announcement if we're not going to be on next Sunday. But until then, everybody, thanks for joining. We the 98ers. Have a great night.